Warning: this content may be upsetting or disturbing to some audiences. Most people against promiscuity would give up those beliefs if they were suddenly more attractive and could effortlessly get laid. 18 Unpopular Opinions of Reddit. Cosmetic surgery is infinitely more ugly than any natural feature could ever be. The world has become obsessed with replacing faces with plastic. There are so many people walking around looking like inflatable sex dolls, cross-eyed pouty wax model-looking people. It is hideous, and expensive. Who finds it attractive? Nobody? I mean, you might find a niche who prefer their partners to look like something that came off a Mattel toy production line, defect, but come on. It's hideous. I am just so tempted to walk up to these spectacles and tell them they look ridiculous. They're fooling nobody. Yeah, I get it, it's not about what other people think, it's about how they feel. BS. It's vanity pure and simple, and it's all about how they think they're perceived. Ugly. Self-obsessed, weirdos. I'd take a big nose over a plastic one any day. I'd take small lips over dingy lips any day. Having moral values without a faith or religion is more impressive. I have come across many posts about religion on Reddit where religious zealots seem to believe that if you don't believe in God you can't possibly have any morals or do anything good. There is obviously flawed logic in this. I have more confidence in people who adhere to positive values and high moral standards because they themselves believe that is the right thing to do and they choose to do it, rather than because the cult they belong to told them to do it. The 8-hour-a-day, 5 days a week workday was a terrible mistake. This shouldn't be an unpopular opinion. If everyone operated with a 4-on-3 off, 12-hour workday, society would be so much happier. With an 8-hour day, you spend so much time preparing to go to work, traveling, and then when you finally do get off and get back home there isn't that much time to do anything and you're dead tired. Working 12-hour shifts is not that much more difficult or tiring, but having 3 days off instead of 2 is so significantly better. Every week, even though you would work 8 hours more, the amount of usable time not spent going to, coming from, or preparing to work, wouldn't significantly change or would increase. The "you're too old to be doing, insert random thing here" mindset is stupid. If someone is doing something that they get joy and entertainment out of, why should they stop doing that simply because they're too old? I've seen people with a steady job who own their own house, their own car, pay taxes and all the other things that qualifies them as an adult, and they're still considered childish by their friends and family simply because they like to play with Legos, or watch cartoons. Yeah, sure, those things are mostly done by children, but that doesn't mean doing those things makes you any less of an adult. I'm willing to bet that there are miserable adults in this world that are miserable because they stopped doing something that they enjoy because someone told them they're too old to be doing what they enjoy anymore. Being an adult doesn't mean you can't enjoy doing childish things. Paris is so overrated. I don't understand why non-Europeans especially are so hyped about Paris. It's a cool city, yeah, but do you really think every street smells like perfume, that you're gonna see people playing accordion with beret and striped shirt smiling at you in a flowered alley? Oh la la, you're mostly gonna get robbed in a railway station if you dare using your phone, or beaten up by some gang if you walk alone at night. There is so much more beauty and safety in other European cities than Paris. There's no universally acceptable way to ask someone on a date, and it's not a man's fault if he doesn't know what you find acceptable. After a lot of conversations with women on Reddit, I've really started to notice that there's not much that's unilaterally considered an acceptable way to ask someone on a date. A lot of women say that they don't mind being approached in public because it shows some degree of confidence from the guy and they are into that. Many others say that they wouldn't want to be approached in public at all because they're probably minding their own business and would like to get to know anyone asking them first. Others say they don't like being approached at all by someone that should know they're likely to get turned down because of their status or clothing, as to not waste anyone's time. Point is, there's really no universally accepted way to ask someone on a date, and as a guy you never know if someone is going to be offended or frightened simply by you asking. Guys should absolutely use context clues whenever they can and be respectful about personal space and boundaries, but it's just frustrating that no one can agree on a 100% correct way to ask someone out without potentially causing issues. Influencers are the worst thing to come out of the 2010s. A bunch of vapid nobodies propelled to fame and fortune by tricking their viewers into thinking they can be their friend. Their sole job is to make people think they actually use the crappy products they are paid to advertise. The whole thing is a case study in herd mentality and the gullibility of the modern consumer. If you gave a pill to overweight people that made them magically wake up at their ideal body weight, they would take the pill. I love my body the way it is just insecure posturing. If Lizzo could look like Gabrielle Union, she would. If James Corden could look like Ryan Philippe, he would. I realize everybody's body is different, but being overweight is over what your weight should be for your body. This changes for every person. Full disclosure, I'm about 60 pounds overweight and I'm included in my statement. I don't like the way I look and feel. But I'm not out here like, I love my curves. Now cue all the anecdotal, medical anomaly rebuttals. Sports fans who spend money on jerseys and buy tickets to see the game aren't any less nerdy than people who cosplay and buy tickets to Comic-Con. If you know lots of useless information about beating records and championships you weren't a part of, you're a nerd. If you have a favorite player and wear their number, you are just as nerdy as the dweeb who wears a Captain America t-shirt all over the place. If you pay out the butt for game tickets, you get the idea. If you support K-pop, you support their mental and physical abuse. It seems like every week a new K-pop idol dies and the K-pop community ignores their favorite artists passing out on stage from exhaustion. Extreme hours put into working out, malnutrition, and mental abuse is rapid between K-pop bands and their managers. Stop supporting K-Con and their music until things change. If you're drowning in college debt because you picked a bad degree, that's your fault. All it would have taken was a bit of research to come to the conclusion that your film arts degree or whatever XYZ degree has a high percentage of unemployment and low income projection to see that it's not a financially sound decision. You'd probably be better off sticking with a decent store and becoming a manager straight out of high school rather than being in debt, wasting 4 years, and still ending up in the same store. There's a difference between picking a good degree and being unlucky and picking a shitty degree and being surprised when you end up at a mediocre job you could have gotten without a degree. Weddings are nothing but a waste of time and money. I don't see the point in doing weddings. You throw an average of $30,000 for just one day to gloat to everyone that you married someone. All for what? Have other people stand around for a whole day just to have everything focus on two people? I'd much rather have it where I just say, hey, I got married and put the large sum of money away for other stuff. Maybe a better honeymoon? A new car? Maybe even get a new house. There is so much better stuff you can spend than just one day of a time-wasting party. A large percent of people against promiscuity would give up those beliefs in a heartbeat if they were suddenly more attractive and could effortlessly get laid. There's a growing presence, mostly men, of anger and bitterness towards hookup culture. For the record, I don't participate in it and have only slept with 2 people, both of whom I was in a relationship with. That being said, I believe an enormous amount of these men who pretend to have traditional values, or other reasonings behind hating hookup culture, would drop every single one of those beliefs if they woke up looking like Brad Pitt. There are good reasons to be against hookup culture for sure, but the mentality seems to be for so many I can't get laid so F you if you can. I don't get Post Malone. Like, are you a person or a tatted up Ewok? Are you cuddly or smelly? Why your music sound like you took both NyQuil and DayQuil at the same time? How come you look like Homer Simpson had sex with Lil Pump? Why are you who you are? I don't get you, son. Signed, your biggest fan. There's no such thing as real music, or real art, for that matter. I'm tired of people posting their Spotify Wrapped, with bands I don't even know existed. I don't mind them sharing their tastes, but it really gets super annoying when they feel so darn smug about it. Anything you like can be good music. It's annoying how you have to listen to not so popular music to be deemed a music lover. I hate being peer pressured into thinking that I'm not cool. It makes no sense to want to live in a huge city instead of a rural area. My main points: traffic. Going from one place to the other is 10 times harder in a big city versus in a smaller city or rural area. Taking a taxi or driving is slow and tedious, especially during rush hours to and from work. Public transport is crowded, dirty, and uncomfortable. And riding a bicycle can be dangerous because of said traffic. Also the risk of having your bike stolen. Air quality and pollution. I have been to NYC a few times and every time I've been there the air has been astonishingly worse than it would be if I was in a rural area. The smell of car exhausts is depressing. Noise, noise, noise. How can anyone sleep in a city without some sort of fan, AC or white noise machine? The constant honking from traffic, sirens, general noise is made by millions of people crammed into a tight area. Taxes and prices. Everything in a city is more expensive. Taxes are absurd, everyday items are more expensive. Cities are not a place for someone who hasn't already made their fortune in life. Safety. Many small communities don't even bother locking their doors at night. Meanwhile, in the cities, if you leave your car unlocked and unattended for 15 minutes, you come back and you've either had your stuff rummaged through for anything valuable, or if you are really unfortunate, your entire car is gone. And most cities have such strict laws on firearms and home defense, you don't even have a fighting chance should someone break in while armed. I don't have an issue with those gun laws, just stating facts. Now I know this isn't everyone's experience with cities, but in general, there is less green space, more noise, more light pollution, more air pollution, and living is much more expensive. Short of having to move to a city for a job, I can't see a single reason for someone to want to live in a city. Especially if that someone is young and doesn't already have a well-paying job. Just my 10 cents. Thanks for reading my ramblings. Animals are not as important as humans. I've seen this mindset a lot online, that animals are nicer than humans, or that animals should have rights. I disagree. Animals do not have the mental capacity to make a significant change in the world and are therefore not important at all. While it is good to be nice to animals, I would never elevate them so high as to say they are as good or better than a human. If I had to choose between saving the life of a cute cat or a human, I would choose the human every time. This is coming from a guy who loves cats. People aren't as offended as people think. I see a lot of people throughout Reddit and just in general who base arguments around the idea that people shouldn't get offended as easily. You'll see tons of people talk about things being too PC these days. But just because consequences occur due to one's actions doesn't necessarily mean that others are offended. Rather, it's a matter of reinforcing a request for respect. I'll elaborate with an example. Imagine going to a coffee shop or store and yelling/cussing at a cashier. You most likely would expect some sort of reaction from said cashier. Now would you say, "Oh, they are getting too offended, my words are just words, they should be able to ignore it"? In fact, the cashier is probably not even personally offended but rather annoyed and rightfully feeling disrespected. Hence, the subsequent actions that may follow, such as removal from the store or backlash from the cashier. But now imagine that no backlash or consequence happened ever for this situation. Well, you could imagine that it would be a lot more acceptable for a person to go around showing this kind of disrespect. Now take it to a more controversial topic. You really think that every African American is offended by you saying the N-word? Hell no. Or that most people who are gay are offended by certain slurs? No. But imagine if companies didn't enforce censorship or people didn't react the way they do. People would just openly use it without fear. And yet all these people are just asking for basic respect. But it says a lot if in certain situations you are capable of showing people respect, but when one group requests that same level of respect, people go up in arms spouting, "Stop being so offended." Thanks for listening to Radio TTS. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell for more videos. Click the right box for the Unpopular Opinion playlist. Share your own unpopular opinion in the comments below. And don't forget to leave your feedback about these opinions.